Hi everyone, welcome back to LaLa Land. Today I'm interviewing the courageous, ambitious, and inspiring Wes Hall. Wes is the first Black dragon on CBC's Dragon's Den. He is the founder of private equity firm Wes Hall Investments Inc. He is also the founder of Kingsdale Advisors and the Black North Initiative. To date, Wes is one of the most powerful Canadian entrepreneurs, and I am so honored to be joined by you today.
Thank you. But you didn't say that I'm the 35th Chancellor of the University of Toronto.
Yes, that's true. It's a big achievement.
That's
Congratulations.
a big deal. That's a big deal. 35th Chancellor of the university. So that's something that I'm very proud of.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So upon many of your achievements, I'm aware that you've had a very long story that you wrote in your national best-selling book, No Bootstraps When You're Barefoot. Mm-hmm. You talked a lot about how you came from humble beginnings in Jamaica, and you've built yourself up today to becoming one of the most successful businessmen in Canada. And so what I really want to focus with you on today is the topic of vulnerability. When you released your book, I think that was a very powerful but also vulnerable thing to do, because you really went into your childhood, some of the hardships that you face. I want to know, how did that serve you in the business culture?
First of all, a great question. A lot of business leaders feel that they have to be tough and have this tough exterior all the time. When you show your vulnerability, it actually shows that you're human. Okay, it doesn't matter that I'm wearing a suit or if I was wearing jeans or if I was wearing shorts. People want to see people's vulnerability. Have you ever seen a CEO of a company make a massive mistake and he's on television and he's talking about the error and he's apologizing? When do you become close to that person? Is when they show emotion, is when they start crying, because that person crying, they're really remorseful. When you made a mistake and you go to your parents and there's no tears and you just go to mom and dad and go, you know what, I'm sorry, mom and dad. And you have this look in your face. In fact, you have a little smirk. They don't see remorse. But if you go in and before you even say you're sorry, they see tears all over your face. They go, you know, LaLa, that's okay. Because they see that you're truly remorseful. So when leaders are vulnerable, it draws people closer to them. Their employees feel more comfortable with them. The people that they do business with feel comfortable to them. I'm not just saying be vulnerable just because. I'm just saying don't hide it. And don't let people know that this tough exterior that you're seeing, this is the true me, because that's not the person, that's not what made me who I am. Those experiences that I've had, growing up in a tin shack in rural Jamaica, made me the person that I am today. So who am I to hide that? And quite frankly, if I hide that, I'm doing this, a complete disservice to my grandmother, the person who raised me.
I really like that you said that, because it's almost like you're using your vulnerability as a superpower, because you are not you today without the hardships that you've experienced. Right?
And it's very hard for me to have empathized with people who have been through that if I didn't go through it. You know, it's one thing for someone to say, well, you know, I think people should do this and that, when they haven't experienced what this or that is. Like if somebody's going through mental trauma and you've never experienced it before, it's a common reaction to just say, well, just snap out of it. Well, you can't just snap out of it. But if you've been there, you know that it's not that easy to snap out of it. When people know that you've been through a path that they're on and you let them know that there is an outcome that is actually better, and that it's not going to last forever like that, it's easy for them to listen to you, because you're not just blowing smoke. You're actually letting them know that, yes, I've been there. This is what I did to overcome it. But I'm not suggesting that you're going to be able to have the same outcome. What I'm trying to tell you is that it's possible to make your way on the other side of trauma. And when you talk about it, it gives people the freedom to talk about their own trauma too. And they're not hiding it from you, because the world tells you that that's a fault and you should hide your fault. If you come from poverty, hide it, because poverty is bad. Poverty is not bad. Poverty is only created because one person is more greedy than the other. You know, at the end of the day, when you look at poor countries, for example, there are people who have a lot of money and there are people who have no money. But what if the people with a lot of money share it with the people with no money? There wouldn't be any poverty. So poverty is created because one group of people go, I'm going to hoard things and I'm not even going to share it with anyone. And that's the reason why philanthropy is so great, because people who have a lot, they realize that they should give back, and they use their money, their time, their energy to give back to those people who don't have as much.
A lot of the time, people that have come from very diverse backgrounds think that because of who they are, they will not be able to achieve certain things. They have like this very narrow path of this is the only way to reach success. And what we're really trying to do on this podcast is show that there are so many different ways to reach success. And I think your story is very unique because not only are you a Black man that has really built yourself up, but you came from very, very humble beginnings, right? But what I really want to know is, what was the process like for you as you wrote the book? Were there any moments where you thought, hey, maybe I shouldn't keep that in? Or is this too much?
Again, great questions, because vulnerability is an interesting thing because it could hurt people when they're vulnerable. People could take advantage of people who are vulnerable. When you tell the truth about your life, about yourself, people could take advantage of that. So you have to be comfortable in your own self before you start being vulnerable. You just don't walk in the first job interview and go, guess what? I came from Scarborough and Malvern, where I was hanging out with people, the kids in my school, they were doing drugs and they were going to jail, and that scares people, especially if you go for a job interview on Bay Street and you're talking to an interviewer who hasn't experienced any of those things and don't even know what it's like. They only see it on television. And then you're telling them that that's the life you live. They're going to wonder, could you become that person? Could you be that person? And so being vulnerable, it means that you have to get to a certain point in your life where you're comfortable with your experiences. You're comfortable with the path that took you to where you are. And if you're not comfortable with that, you're always going to hide the person that you are. But the sooner you can completely be yourself, the better you'll perform. So if you go into a company, for example, and let's say they are not comfortable with you wearing the hijab, and you go, you know what, I'm gonna not wear it just to fit in. When do you actually start wearing it? Because one day you're gonna walk in and you're gonna wear it because it's a part of you, and then people are gonna go, what happened to you? But let's say, for example, you start from the beginning to say, this is who I am, take it or leave it, I'm not gonna be any different. The fact of the matter is that most people that we encounter in life are good people, and if we always go into a situation with that in mind, we're gonna see the true beauty of humanity. Problem is that we always go into situations thinking about our whatever concerns that people may have with us, and it's always about us, and we never give people the benefit of the doubt to go, I'm gonna be a good human being. But most people don't have a problem with you wearing a hijab. Most people don't have a problem with me being Black. So why is it that every time I go into a situation, that's the first thing on my mind is that this person is gonna have a problem with me because I'm Black, or this person's not going to hire me because I'm Black? If we go into situations in a positive way, and then when we get in there, we are authentic, we're going to be better.
While we're on the topic of being comfortable with yourself, I want to ask you about the idea of betting on yourself. I feel like the only way that you can really, truly reach success is by putting full trust in your abilities, betting on yourself, and putting yourself in very challenging situations. For you, you have a family, and you're in Canada with not many resources, so you really had to put your all into things. Were there moments where you just thought, what if this doesn't work out?
You use the term bet. Bet is something that could be good or it could be bad. Betting on anything could be good or bad. Betting in golf, betting on the casino, betting on anything could be bad. You either win or you lose. That's what happens when you bet. There's usually no in between when you bet on something. So when I decided that I'm going to start my own company, betting on myself, it could have been a disaster. Why? Because I mortgaged my house for $100,000. If Kingsdale didn't work, I would be homeless because that's it. But when you have confidence in yourself, that's a different story. Some people just bet willy-nilly. They just go, I'm just going to put everything on Black. And that's chance in that case. Betting, you want to take the chance out of betting on yourself. Because I didn't know how to run a business, but I felt that I would put the work in to figure it out. This industry that I created didn't exist before, but I knew that my hard work and the ingenuity that I was going to bring to what I do is going to create it. But I also had deep confidence in what my abilities are, but I also appreciate what my limitations were, and I try to work within them. So when you put a business plan together, there's two things that you do. You put pros, cons. And most people, when they're going to bet on themselves and start a business, and they have a list of pros and cons, usually the list of cons is very, very long. The pros list is usually very short. In a lot of cases, it's one thing. All the things that could go wrong, you put them on here. And the pro, what if it works? There's nothing else to put on that list. What if it works? Because if it works, all the beautiful things that you're going to gain is going to come from that. What if it works is the only pro. But you can come up with cons just list after list. What if my mortgage, I can't pay my mortgage? What if I can't go to a restaurant with my family anymore? What if I can't take a vacation? All this what if and the cons. But what if it does work? So I focus on that and try to mitigate the cons by looking at the things that I can control. And the things that I can't control, I try to figure out a way to mitigate them.
A common theme that I noticed that you go back to and I find really interesting is the fact that you said, look within yourself, who you are, understanding yourself. And I think that's extremely important because without knowing who you are, your vulnerabilities, your strengths, your weaknesses, your limitations that you have, there's only so far that you can go. So I really, really appreciate that you said that. Looking within ourselves is really, really important, especially because I know that we have a lot of young viewers. Yep. This is a good time for everyone to really look within themselves. So I have a lot of appreciation for that.
Well, LaLa, one of the things that, especially young people, we all think we're superstars when we're a certain age. And we just think so much of ourselves. And then all of a sudden, we get into the workforce and people tell us that we're not as good as we think we are. And that breaks us. That breaks our spirit. A part of the reason why we have that attitude is that we don't experience, in a lot of cases, hardship. If you don't experience hardship, you don't know what it's like to take really solid counsel from someone to say, you need to be better at this and that. If you go to school and the teacher, it's a bell curve and everybody gets a B. Well, in the workforce, everybody doesn't get a B. When people don't perform, they get fired. And when you get fired, there are consequences. You can't pay your rent. You can't pay your bills. That's why they call it the real world. Because in the real world, there's a certain behavior that people expect from each other. And if you don't present that, there are certain consequences that will come with that. If we believe that we are the be all and end all, then we're not humble enough to take encouragement from others who can teach us something. So in my career, the moment I started to work, I always looked to learn from other people who've been there before me. And I always take their advice and encouragement, even is hard to hear, but there's something in every single counsel that we get. Like, think about when your parents discipline you. You think they just get up one day and go, I'm going to discipline LaLa just because we want to. They don't do that. The reason why they've done that is because they see certain traits in you that will not make you a great human being when you grow up. And they want to correct it, because if they let it go, it's just going to get worse. And it's not going to be good for you in the future. So they don't discipline you to have fun. They do it because they want to make you better. And that's how, if we look at counsel and discipline, we have to look at it from that perspective, that there's someone who cares enough about my future that they're taking the time to correct certain traits that they see in me that's negative and actually affect my future in a negative way. That's how we should view that. So when you graduate school and get into the workforce and your boss sits you down and say, you know what, LaLa, I think you should do this better. There should be no negative attitude about it. It's taken in the spirit in which it was given. And even if it was given in an unfair way, there's parts of it that may be true. Yeah. And if that part of it, whatever part of it may be truthful, take that part of it and apply it.
Take it and work on it and utilize it in the best way possible.
That's right.
I think that's really important, because I think it's hard for so many people to hear criticism sometimes, but just taking it and looking within yourself and just thinking, okay, how can I move forward from this? How can I be a better person is so important. I have one last question for you. What does success look like to you?
Success, the money doesn't matter. The fancy watch and the outfit, none of those things matter. That's not success. Success is when your family respects you and they just look to you and have this deep respect. And there's no financial connection to that respect. It's when you've raised a family, and especially the kids when they become adults, and they respect you, your grandkids respect you. But the most telling for me is that when my wife looks at me, it's in her eyes.
They know it.
It's in the way that she speaks to me. It's in the way that we communicate. It's in the way that, the affection that she shows, because that's the person who knows you the most. That's the person that you can't hide anything from. So when you're able to have a success in relationship, success with your family, and if you can add some financial success to that, that's great. But the financial part of it should never, in my view, in my mind, it's never part of the equation on how I determine success.
I have a lot of appreciation for that respect from your family. That means a lot. And I know that a lot of people are going to really agree with that and find that very powerful. So thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. LaLa Land, thank you so much for tuning in.